Welcome to the $1 Million Multi-Op Podcast. Here, you're going to find education, entertainment, and a little inspiration on how to get to the next level. Are you a DJ company owner that's looking for the secret sauce? Congrats, you found it.
What's up, everybody, and welcome to the $1 Million Multi-Op Podcast. I'm your host, David Osborne with BlueprintLearn.com. On the podcast today is my good friend Alex Nepa from Pennsylvania. What's up, Alex?
What's going on, David? How's it going?
Okay, so Alex, we've known each other in person now for me, I don't know, 5-ish years. I think we met in person at DJ Collective, but before that, we were in the Monday morning meetup, doing some stuff. So, talk to us. You know, I know you're pretty well known in the industry and you've been around for a while. But if there's any young bucks or people that are unfamiliar with you, give yourselves a little introduction about your market, about your company, and kind of what you do.
Yeah, man. I'm here in State College, Pennsylvania, which is the home of Penn State. Man, my background, there's just so much to cover. So I'm going to do the elevator pitch here. Been a DJ for too many years, but I still love it and enjoy it. My company is Mint DJ Events. We are a mix of your traditional multi-op, multi-DJ companies, as well as event production. And we kind of live in the nightlife and branding space as well for nightlife. So we have our hands in a lot of stuff, and it's a lot of fun. I DJ about 50 weddings a year personally, and the company always kind of averages right around 100 weddings a year.
Man, I didn't realize you still did 50 weddings a year. Good for you.
Dude, I'm beasting it. A lot of Fridays, a lot of Saturdays, very rarely on Sundays, but yeah, sometimes.
I think that's going to parlay great into our conversation today. But, you know, one of the first things that I learned about you back in the day, one of the first things that I experienced, because it was one of those things when we were in a group of DJs that every Monday morning we would meet up, we'd get on Zoom for an hour or two and we'd just kind of talk shop. And then sometimes we got into these little grooves where sometimes people would present and share something, or I think we got into like a sales thing one time. I remember seeing your stuff and just thinking it was pretty. You know, your branding has just always been on point. And, you know, easily top 5% of DJ companies out there, just in terms of the brand, the cohesiveness, how much time and effort you put into it. And I think it's possibly because I feel like it's a deficiency for me in terms of visual branding. It's something I feel like I'm great at. I recognize it even more so in you.
Yeah. So, I mean, to start off about branding, it's very important both in terms of, you know, like what people kind of think of your company, but realistically, branding and being consistent in branding kind of intrinsically creates trust with soon-to-be clients or even current clients, repeat clients. So when you've got that same color scheme, that same font scheme, and just an attractive visual brand, it elevates you to the level which you want your brand to represent, with whether that's, you know, a Walmart type of brand, Target type of brand, Macy's, Nordstrom. I'm going retail here because a lot of our clients associate with retail, West Elm, things like that. So really you want to find out where your clients are, you know, shopping, spending their money, and kind of match that brand. And that's one thing that's just super important to me. And I'm on the rebranding scheme for Mint again, or brand refresh, I guess is a more appropriate word. Yep.
I like that term, brand refresh. And if we were going to give ourselves at Sound Insight, if I had to pick a retail shop, I don't know, I'd probably pick maybe Anthropologie.
Yeah, that's a great one. Yeah,
it's cool and hip and modern, but it's funky and colorful.
Yep.
I think for a long time I wanted to be more sterile, like more. You know, I thought I needed to be cool to be like clubtastic, but I think as we realized that we're actually a pretty bold and colorful company.
I mean, even when you think about being clubtastic and cool, maybe what our, 35 plus year old mentality of that is different than what actually happens in the club space. Because when you look at a brand like Omnia in Vegas, I mean, their brand is clean. It's in that line with Anthropologie. It's, it is that. It's very similar.
Yeah, I agree. And I think you know Malik out of South Florida, or at least
I know
Malik
Malik very well. He is the king of marketing and branding in this space.
Yeah, he said something. He was on the podcast some months ago. He said something that really resonated with me, which is if people can't articulate what makes your brand different than other companies, when they get to you at a sales call, I mean, before talking to you in person, you need to do more branding.
Well, yeah, and I think that could go also into the fact that you are the leader of your brand, whether you're the owner or the face of the company or just working behind the scenes. You're that leader, and you need to be able to communicate that to your team. Your team needs to be able to understand that, and they need to be able to communicate that as well.
So for your team, you being the leader of your brand for Mint, what is that Mint brand? What do you guys stand for, and how would you articulate that?
So it's wild you mentioned that. As I mentioned, we're doing a brand refresh, and that brand is going to change. One thing that I'm finding out in our space, as I'm the one who does all of our sales at Mint. So as we look at what we're getting and what we're missing in terms of booking weddings, we have always booked the traditional multi-op way, where people book the brand, they trust the brand, whoever their DJ is going to be fine. And we're actually moving into the space very much like I do in the nightlife world, where people are going to be able to pick their DJs. Each DJ is going to have a profile. The DJs are going to be independent contractors, talented club DJs kind of entering the wedding space. So that's what our brand is going to look like 2025 and beyond. But right now we're kind of in that middle ground where we're still using the old method.
So that's like a true agency style model then.
Yep, 100%.
And then are you going to be, if you can't say it, that's fine, but are you going to be pulling talent locally and people that are within a drive, or this is going to be a talent roster where you can fly folks in?
So we do go anywhere currently. And most of the time that's me doing the traveling just from Penn State alumni that want us at their wedding. But it's going to be mostly regional talent within probably a 4-hour drive.
And when you're in Pennsylvania, a 4-hour drive gets you a lot.
It does. It gets you a real lot. Yeah.
When you're in Athens, Georgia, a 4-hour drive doesn't even get you to Nashville. So,
yeah, 4-hour drive gets me New York, Philadelphia, Baltimore, Pittsburgh.
Yeah, it's a different world. I had a whole conversation earlier this morning about the possibilities that you can have are so dependent on your geography. When you are in a New York, Philly, Jersey, even Connecticut, that area, just how much access you have to talent and resources. Also, access to competition, though, which is the other side of that. Whereas where we have drastically less competition, but we also have drastically less resources to build. So.
See, I've got the best of both worlds here in Happy Valley. We're in a bubble. And for those of you listening, Penn State is often referred to as Happy Valley. And that's not just because of the drinking and the spirits. It's actually an economic thing where usually when there's economic recessions or depressions, it doesn't affect us. And that's actually why we're known as Happy Valley. It happened during the Great Depression. But yeah, we only have one competitor. They're a great team of people. And I love them. But yeah, I love the fact that we have very limited competition as well.
Boom. Yeah, I think we've been in business for almost 17 years, and I think I've seen a few folks come and go.
Yep.
And I just, we have a really talented DJ that lives in Athens who is a amazing human, Ladarius, and we said he's a competitor but also a friend. And then outside of that, we've just seen multi-ops come and go over the years, and we've just kind of been the mainstay.
Yeah, nobody really tries multi-ops. We get independent DJs here and there, and some of them stick around, and some of them are good, and sometimes I acquire them. They look for a little more structure, a little more events, and then we kind of take them on. But yeah, as far as our main competitor, I feel the same way about mine.
I'd say our biggest competitor is in Atlanta, and we cross paths sometimes, but
okay.
And still, I still really believe that we really don't have a true competitor because what we do is so unique and so different.
And how far is Atlanta from you guys?
With no traffic, like if you're coming home from the airport at 4 a.m. or something, it's an hour 20.
Okay.
In the real world, when you're dealing with actual rush hour or real traffic, you're talking 2 to 3 hours depending on the day.
Yeah. What is that? Is that I-70 there? It's brutal.
It's 85. We take 85.
Yeah.
316 is and then we take 85 that gets you into Atlanta, or you can go the back way, but that's a different podcast, I think.
Yeah.
Like I said, Atlanta's a different market. Where we are in Atlanta is not, and we're so close. And I'm equal distance to Greenville, South Carolina, also another market. So our market is Northeast Georgia, which is we're about 45 minutes from wineries. We're about 45 minutes from lakes with plantations. I mean, we're in a real unique spot.
Very cool.
So so talk to me about that, because I think recruiting. When you're recruiting and training people from the ground up, like you did with college students back in the day, now when you're looking at vetting, because it's more of a vetting process now when you're working with existing talent and subcontractors, How does that look? Is this people that you're having to come into the club and you're starting to like them?
Yeah, so everything happens organically. The old process was constant advertising, whether it was Craigslist back in the day, which is not my style right now, or Indeed currently. It was just an always hiring process, always training process, always getting them ready. And it was a drag. And it was around 2020, the pandemic, of course, which I'm not going to spend too much time talking about, where we really got a chance to rethink how we do things, what we want to price at, where we're making our money, where we're losing our money. And so getting into the vetting process right now, it's organic. For a lot of the bars and clubs here at Penn State, I act as a talent buyer. So I'm placing DJs in the spots according to where I think their talents are going to fit best. And, a lot of those guys are from out of town. So the conversation then starts and, hey, I know you do weddings, you're crushing that space. How do I get into it? So it started off with just me handing out friendly advice. And then I'm like, maybe I could do that part for them. And that was the light bulb that went off.
It's the same but different. It's so similar to what we're doing, but in such a different way. We have two multi-ops, and we use the secondary multi-op as the vetting tool, as the way to start the conversation, as the way to like expand that net, and then the ones who are really fantastic eventually move to the other one.
Yep.
And you're doing the same thing. You're treating the bars and clubs and your other revenue stream for yourself, which is being a talent buyer, to vet the people and give them time to build that relationship and see if, hey, would this person actually represent the Mint brand?
Yeah. And on the flip side too, I do get inquiries from prospects and to soon to be clients wondering, hey, this DJ I saw at the bar, I know it was you that booked him. How do I get him at my wedding? So it kind of works both ways, as they kind of build those relationships with Penn State students that want to come back and get married. That's how that starts.
I think that's super smart and I think that's one thing that we really lack in Athens. And I don't know if it will ever change because I've seen it. I've been here for 25 years now and I've never really seen it take off. We don't have a really strong nightlife DJ scene. Like, we might have one or two spots that will host DJs for 2-3 years and then they go out of business. And it's just the bar scene is strong. We have a strong, underground music scene here, but there's just in the way that I think it operates where you are is a little bit different. Because and there's just not a lot of people that live here industry wise. So when people are going out when they're 23 years old, they're going out in Atlanta.
Oh, wow. Okay.
They move back to Atlanta. They move back to Metro Atlanta. So you get those people that are starting to plan their weddings. That's where you're going to they're going out and seeing the DJs in Atlanta.
I guess we are very similar there because people don't come back here and live after they graduate. It's 100% a transient town where they come for school. They have the best 4 to 6 to 8 years of their lives, depending on their major and how well their academics are. And then they kind of move away. But yeah, a lot of them want to come back here because it's the central ground to get married. They have fond memories of the place, and a lot of their friends are close by too.
I think that's probably a universal big college school thing because that's easily a huge part of our demographic are folks who fell in love with Athens and they came back for their weddings. But when you're finding these great DJs that you've seen them play, but you haven't seen them be a vendor, really, you haven't seen them, work with photographers and a caterer and a blah, blah, blah. How are you, or what is your plan for if it's, still a future thing? How are you planning on keeping the QC or the quality control and making sure that they're delivering the other stuff that's not just rocking a party?
Yeah. So, as David is talking about, if you're a DJ listening, which I'm just going to assume, if you're just a wedding client, whatever, that's all good too. But if you're a DJ listening, you really crushing the party is our brand, but there's 2 roles we play at weddings early on. If you're doing the ceremony, you're a sound tech. If you're doing the reception, the MC work, everything like that, you're an event host. And a lot of behind the scenes stuff, making sure photographers are in place. If you've got a planner, making sure you're working with them without any ego, making sure caterers know what the timeline is, and that's a lot of time known ahead of time with food and things like that. So there are a ton of moving pieces, and a lot of DJs in the club that can shout, "Put your fucking hands up," are a lot different than DJs at weddings, where you've got to introduce things with a little bit of etiquette and taste. So it does require some training. It's a different world. I think one of the biggest things that nightlife DJs tell me about weddings is, oh my God, there's so much waiting. Because you're waiting, 6 hours 4 hours until the party actually starts and you actually play the role of a real DJ. So a lot of times for me, that's just, having them shadow me once or twice. And that's also the ego test too. So if you get a club DJ that thinks they're the shit, hey, will you shadow me? Just watch how I do these weddings. And then from there, I do hand them scripts. I've got a ton of SOPs written on procedures and things like that, but nobody likes to read. Insert the blueprint learn, where that's a different style of learning. So that's great too.
Ooh, thanks for the plug there, Alex.
Yeah.
No, I think you're totally right. And I think that's why you've been successful, is that you're not just, I think maybe on the surface, if I'm watching what you're doing and I'm seeing that you're successful, I'm thinking, man, Alex is just finding some cool club DJs that can just rock shows. Oh, he's so lucky. And you're like, well, no, he's doing all the same things that we're doing in just a different medium.
Yeah.
He's still screening for people. He's still doing the test. Our mutual friend Mike Siegel one time said, it's just like the "Does Mike like you?" test. It's like,
yeah.
Do you pass the "Are you a quality human?" test? You're putting people through those paces. It's just in a different order, in a different way that we do it, but it's still taking the time to have systems and processes and expectations, because your brand is so important to keep it going strong.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, and it's also like, do you stress Alex the fuck out test? Are you a low maintenance test? And the low maintenance test, for me, a lot of times, if I have this guy that kills clubs, but it's constantly texting, and it's like, I can click a double heart on it for a club thing, whatever, that's all good. Cool, bro. Good job. But a lot of times if people are, I guess, stressful to me or high maintenance to me, I worry, are they going to be high maintenance to the planner? Are they going to be high maintenance to the couple? So there are guys that I will book nonstop for clubs, but they might not make the wedding world for that reason.
You just struck gold with that comment, because when people ask me all the time, hey, why are you so strict in that recruiting and training process? Because you just said it yourself. If you drive me crazy, or you are late to meetings with me,
yes,
especially like an interview, if you're late to an interview,
no.
which is kind of like the most important step of your hiring, what are you going to do on someone's wedding day? You're probably going to be late, because that's what you've shown me. So whatever behaviors you see from a person, that's how they treat everybody.
Yeah.
Pay attention.
Yeah. How you do anything is how you do everything. And, for me at a wedding day, number one, the ceremony is super important, the sound at the ceremony, because that's their first impression. But realistically, you showing up on time or early is a first impression too. And if you're showing up late, even if it's 15 minutes late for a setup at a wedding, like that kind of takes away some trust for the client, the planner, the people working with you, because the wedding, the client might not actually see that you're there. They've got other things going on. But yeah, it is super important to be early, and that's something I live by.
Would you say that if you're talking holistically about a brand, being on time, being responsible, wearing the right clothes,
yes,
talking to vendors in the right way is just as much of a part of the brand and the Mint brand as the colors and the fonts?
Yeah, we've got setup uniform, man. It's and I'm gonna do a cheap plug here. I have a Patreon. It's new. I'm just kind of populating it, but there's gold in there already. And I've got a whole thing, basically my Patreon is teaching club DJs that aren't in the wedding space how to be wedding DJs, providing edits. So there's that unique aspect there. And I've got a whole PDF / Patreon post about how to dress at weddings, where to buy clothes, different options. And I share that with my team too. I am a Lululemon guy for setup. Not everybody likes to spend that money, but it is what it is.
Okay. I'm a big fan of the dry fit anything.
Yeah.
So maybe there's that Lululemon crossover.
Well, and they've got that zinc. Lululemon has zinc in their clothing, so it doesn't stink if you're sweating your brains out.
Ooh,
yes.
I did not realize that.
Little plug there.
How are you finding ways to keep the energy high, keep the passion going? How are you keeping this thing moving?
So two different things there. How do you stay in love with the business? Those were, I guess, the three takeaways there that I got for that. How do you stay in love with the business? Vet your clients if you can afford to, making sure you're taking on the gigs that represent you and your brand best. And that's kind of the world I'm in. I usually don't take weddings with less than 100 guests, just because that's not usually my vibe. Small weddings. I kind of live for huge parties, although I will take on some small weddings here and there when I feel like the clients really match up nicely. So that's number one. I make almost all of my own edits of music that I play, which takes a lot of time, but it keeps me excited about the music that I'm playing. I always kind of say to DJs that, when you're a wedding DJ, no matter how different you are, how unique you are, how forward you are with your brand and your music, realistically, we're probably all playing, I would say 75% of the same songs. So, Applebee's has a steak, Ruth's Chris has a steak, Michelin star restaurants have a steak. How is that steak different? How is that steak prepared differently? So that's me musically. So it's just a matter of doing what other people do better or different. How do I stay not burnt out? Always have a trip planned, always have a vacation planned, something on the books. And I believe that was either Joe Bunn or Mike Walter that I stole that from. Brilliant. Just always something to look forward to outside of work. So always having something like that on the books.
You just got to level up, Alex. Good for
Oh,
you.
Yeah.
I think that the always have a trip plan. That sounds like a Mike Walterism to me.
Yeah. Even if it's like a night out with your wife or your girlfriend or whatever. Yeah.
And then, we're talking about this in the pre-call. We've talked about this a few different times. When we met in person at DJ Collective in 2019, because we had known each other previously, I attended your like health and wellness session. You and Nate Nelson talked about a lot of these same things. And I kind of branded you and your personal brand in my mind that you're kind of a health guy. And we'll trade text messages back and forth sometimes about like, oh man, I'm 41 and I was at the gym and I pulled my back out and I was just warming up, yay. Or maybe I'm going to stop doing squats with the barbell. We have these conversations, and you're someone that I reach out to because I know that you respect the health and wellness game. What are some of the things that you do daily, weekly, monthly to keep yourself in performance shape?
Yeah, so it is, a lot of my reasons and my why behind the health things are vanity. As we age, and it's a young man's game, we want to avoid aging, and a lot of times that's just avoiding getting fat, realistically. So that's eating right 80% of the time. 20% of the time you can have garbage. That's all good. The 80-20 rule is kind of my rule of thumb. And that's, I never really preach how. I preach the why. Like, you've got to find your own how, because in order for something to be sustainable, you have to enjoy it and not consider it a drag. And that's another health thing too. The way you work out. I'm a weights guy. I've always liked lifting weights. It hurts a little more as you get older. And when it comes to injuries too, I will say this: they never happen in those moments where people are like, holy shit, that guy's dangerous, he's going to kill himself. They happen when you're loading a 10-pound plate on a bar, and it's just, or you're tying your shoes into the gym and you pull your back. It's always the everyday mundane things where you end up hurting yourself.
There was an Amazon ad I saw yesterday or the day before, and it was a guy laying on the floor under his bed because he had just tried to tie his shoe and he fell down and he couldn't get up. So he's using like the Amazon medical service they have now to like get on his virtual call and get help. And I was like, I feel that. I feel that literally.
If that happens to you when you're rolling out of bed, putting on your shoes, maybe just take the shoes off and go back to bed for that day.
Right. I mean, like, yeah, I'm now at the age that the random health things just happened. I spent, my knee was in pain the other day and I thought maybe I cracked something or pulled my meniscus, and the next day it was just fine. Yeah. And I'm like, what's going on in the world? Okay. You said something that I've heard before in a different way that I love. It's like don't diet. Don't do crash course diets. Try to eat the way that you're going to still be able to eat that way when you're 80.
Yeah.
Like change the habits in your life so that it's something sustainable you can do for the next 40 years, 50 years, whatever, because you enjoy it. You like it.
Yeah. And we've, both of us right now are standing on a desk treadmill. They're not on, but that's another thing too, always walk. I mean, you can easily walk on this thing 2 hours a day and not even notice it. And 2 hours a day at 3 miles an hour is 6 miles. So that's pretty banging.
And 6 miles is around 10,000 steps.
Yeah.
Somewhere around there, depending on your step size and your speed. But
yeah, your stride. These desk treadmills have very short strides, so you might get in more steps. But
yep. And our friend David Meister, he shared something recently about he got into the desk treadmill game because there's a lot of studies out there that say that getting 10,000 steps a day is one of the best preventative things that you can do for so many diseases. Like it's like hydration and just getting a lot of steps.
Yeah, hydration's super clutch too, man. I got to get that gallon in a day. And for the first time since 2018, I have a trainer too. So I'm excited about that.
Okay. I like that a lot. So you're saying, take care of yourself in the ways that you enjoy, do things that help you feel young and feel strong. And then like what you were talking about with your business and staying passionate about it, it's really like do things that still keep you in love with why
Yep.
you loved it in the first place.
Yeah.
You loved playing, you love editing music, you love the music side of it. You love the art side of it. So don't stop doing that. Don't
Never.
do it. Yeah.
No. Yeah. And I mean, so many people in our space, in the wedding space, they get hot, in whatever way hot is for them. Whether they get booked, every weekend, whatever. And they kind of fall into that routine of that period. And then they start tapering off and they're still doing what they were doing when they were hot, thinking that's what they need to do. Whether you're a DJ that started in the 80s, 90s, 2000s, 2010s, I can name a bunch of people. And I see it happen in the club space too, where they just don't advance with new music.
Oh my gosh. I can tell you my favorite thing, the part of what I do professionally now that feels the least like work is crate digging.
Yes. Yeah. That's every Thursday for me. I go through new music, edit stuff. And yeah, dude, it's the best.
Looking through all the record pools and finding the one that makes you go like, oh shit, like, oh my God, that is, and I'm like, wait, this is still work, because some of the other parts of it can feel like work, but that's the part for me as an entertainer that still gets me wildly excited and just feels like fun.
Yep. Yeah. And another thing too is delegating, as a business owner, as you grow, whether that's hiring people or, counting on people on your staff. I know you have Ian doing things for you now, and that's huge. Recognize your strengths, recognize your weaknesses, recognize the things you love, recognize the things you hate, and, kind of delegate that way. For me, it's financial. So I've got a great CPA, great accountant that kind of pushes me in the right direction for all of that stuff. And to be honest with you, I barely know my stuff other than the fact that we're doing good. Yeah.
That's great. That's really great to know that you trust someone that much that you can kind of turn it over. Again, another thing, I hear a lot of things and I just repeat them. I think when the time is right. Maybe it was the E-Myth. It was some book I was reading or something. It was talking about how, like, if you're a really, really healthy CEO, healthy business owner, you don't know everything. You don't know everything that's happening in your business because you have a person who does. And that actually is healthier because that means that person actually has real ownership over that task and you're not micromanaging them, which is harder to do than it sounds, but it is awesome. And it's kind of something I feel like I'm always working towards. And it's not easy.
Yeah. I mean, even this is probably the worst example in the world because I am not political. And I think every president since the year I've been born has been the worst president ever. But think about presidents, or even CEOs of a large company, but I'm more familiar with the presidential space. Like, they've got cabinets and they all brief the president. So they have an overview of what's going on. They get the big picture, but other people are working on the minutia.
Absolutely. There's no way one person can do all that work. What a timely example, Alex. And I think I'm just going to leave it at that. Oh man, this has been great. I'm really getting more and more excited about health and wellness as I get older, and I feel like I'm trying to still stay passionate and excited about what I do on the daily, and not get just smothered by the grind sometimes. So,
yeah. One thing actually I could say too is that I didn't say is we all live on these things. I do one vacation a year where my phone's shut off. That's everybody important knows, and that's it. Yep.
That's amazing. How long can you go for?
I mean, dude, I could burn this thing in a fire right now and go forever, but I probably wouldn't have a business. But it's usually 5 days.
Shout out to this thing. Have you heard of these? Got a little.
Dude, I have one here too somewhere. Yeah, I just got it. Haven't set it up yet, but yeah, I'm excited for it.
Most people that are consuming this are not watching, so you're not seeing what I'm holding. It's a little gray square called a brick. I got an ad for this back in the spring. It's a little, I don't know what you would call it exactly, but
it's a magnet, right? It's essentially
like a magnet. And you tap it to the back of your phone, and what it does is it in one tap accesses custom settings of like do not disturb or like notifications in your phone. So you're able to deny yourself access to apps.
So it basically turns your phone into a flip phone.
Yes, which is, again, I'm going to repeat what you just said. If I didn't have multiple businesses, I would likely delete every social media app on my phone.
Yeah. I mean, I think the rule of thumb there is to consume more than you create, or pardon me, create more than you consume. Don't consume more than you create.
Create more than you
And don't
consume.
get involved. Like Joe Rogan actually calls it ghosting. So he'll post something and post and ghost. So you post what you need to post and don't get worried about every single comment. Like you don't need to reply to every comment. You don't need to heart every comment, thumbs up, post and ghost.
You got to do stuff to take care of yourself.
Yep.
Absolutely. And I think that's a huge part of your personal brand. So I think this whole conversation really has been about branding as a company, branding a multi-op, branding visually, branding by behavior, and of course, branding who you are and what that makes sense to.
Branding is everything you do. It's not just your logo. It's not just your colors. It's, how you talk. It's how you write. It's how you post things. It's how you present yourself at events. It's how you perform at events. Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's your sales pitch. It's, your follow-up. It's your Zoom calls. Yep.
Absolutely. Well, guys, this has been an awesome chat with the one and only Alex Nepa. We talked deep about a lot of stuff, got some good nuggets. Hope you learned something, got some tips in there. As always, there's free resources at blueprintlearn.com/resources. So that'll be linked in the show notes, and we'll link Alex's Patreon on there so you can go check that out. I'm sure that's an awesome resource. Everything I've ever seen from Alex has been on point. So check that out. Alex, how else can people find you?
Probably Instagram is the best way, at DJ Alex Nepa. And I promise you, if you DM me, I'll get back to you within 2 months.
And if you're on vacation, it'll be 2.5 months.
Yeah. Yep.
Awesome, Alex. Thanks so much.
Thank you.